I think what's happened is that more and more cities around the nation have figured out that if you open up a space and you allow the public to come and enjoy that space, everything from what's happened in New York City with Broadway to places in San Francisco to places in Los Angeles, we know that if you open up space that people will come and enjoy that space. So we think Center Street is a natural.
There is no other site, circumstance, and situation like Center Street.
You have the university on one side of the street. One block from here is the BART station, and you have this enormous flow of people. People that are alive, alert, young people that are learning. So to actually bring into this area the consciousness about nature coming through it and bringing nature back into our lives is extremely powerful.
Part of what we've been talking about in our plans for downtown revitalization is really making Berkeley a model green city center. And the Walter Hood plan for Center Street is truly a green plan. It involves environmentally progressive stormwater management features, daylighting parts of the creek, and connecting our natural environment into the urban landscape.
It's about the citizens wanting to create a new sense of place in Berkeley.
I mean, look, people in general have a positive view of Berkeley. If you just kind of do a Rorschach test of Berkeley, people will have a positive view of it. But then it'll get infected by, oh, but it's kind of grotty and this and that, So if you make it into a beautiful destination, then people will want to come over here.
We need to have some way to make it more friendly in the context of being a place where you would want to go and hang out.
Most of the great public spaces I've seen are really in Europe, because I think that that's something that they have really cultivated by creating kind of the center of cities into pedestrian areas. So I think that in some sense being a pedestrian plaza or pedestrian area is kind of crucial to that.
I mean, just look on Center Street. I mean, every day there are at least 10,000 people that walk to and from the UC campus. I mean, there are more people walking on Center Street than there are cars driving down Center Street. And so in whatever project that we construct, we do need to make sure there's room for deliveries and emergency vehicles, but this street already essentially functions as a pedestrian street.
So if you go to the center of most European cities, there's sidewalk cafes and places to sit out and things like that.
I mean, there are these classic examples that you can find in the world of places we like, and why do we like them? And it's because of these relationships. It's not so far-fetched that people like going to Europe. Sitting in a Parisian cafe. And then you go to Berkeley or Oakland and you sit at Starbucks. You see what's happening inside Starbucks now. Inside, not outside. It's those relationships that people, want to have. And that's what Center Street, I think, can encapsulate to a certain degree. That set of relationships you get in a city.
My name is Jorgen Blomberg. I lead a really interesting group of engineers and geologists and hydrologists that analyze creek and river systems and develop restoration plans for those systems. Well, I grew up here in Berkeley, so I feel kind of a personal connection to this project. Downtown Berkeley is a place that I've spent a lot of time at various points in my life, and so it's meant different things to me at different times. And now recognizing kind of the potential of what the downtown could be, recognizing what it was when I was at Berkeley High School versus what it is for a Cal student when I was here at Cal. It's a really different place, and finding a way to use Strawberry Creek as an organizing element to kind of bring these worlds together. This can't occur just anywhere in the world. I mean, one, we have to have the creek to actually tie into and tell a story from. But then we also have to have a community that supports it and understands the potential value that it brings.
Typically in Berkeley, plans become polarized, and oftentimes nothing happens or there's a pushback. But what we saw is through so many different processes, all the area plans, the downtown plan, all these different task force, every time this idea has emerged as something everybody can agree that we need to move forward on.
It's sort of cut across all the different political ideologies in Berkeley, and we've gotten broad support in the council for this idea, which is great. I just think it represents really what the project is about, which is building community.
You know, I think any city, you have to look at any city in America, you either change or you die. I mean, you either reinvent yourself, you either come up with a strategy that's going to work, or you die.
Well, there's another really good example of a creek restoration project that helped really revitalize the downtown, and that's San Luis Obispo. When that project was finished, their vacancy rate in the downtown went from 60% to 0.
In San Luis Obispo, they opened up their creek. Now, it was a different situation. Basically, the buildings didn't front on the creek. The rear of the buildings were at the creek, but they opened that up, and that's been a huge success.
The Mission Plaza and Creek Restoration Project there totally transformed their downtown.
Right now, the sunniest space is the most fallow space.
Yeah, it was almost like you could almost
Allow them to put over there, right?
yeah, put over there and leave the cars here.
Well, that's what they do in Barcelona, in the Ramblas.
Yeah,
You know, you eat in the middle,
yeah,
in the sun,
Right.
and the people come over with the restaurants, you know,
yeah.
and they get the food.
Yeah, we could do that.
Landscape has the ability to slow us down, to get us to see our world, the world we live in, differently. I think that's the beautiful thing about landscape to me versus architecture.
Walter is one of these guys who doesn't accept no as an answer. I've worked with him on some other projects, and he just comes to these projects with creativity and a can-do attitude, and he, more than most people I know, I think he's able to articulate and bring complexity to a project, but do so in a really elegant way.
I have to think about, you know, the restaurateurs who operate daily on the street. They're part of the dance. But I also have to think about the student who's walking through daily, or the bird that's flying over, right? Or the water that wants to drain into the ground. That's what makes it beautiful, I think, to be a designer. You know, that you can actually call on all of these things in the world to help you make better decisions about what to make and how to make it.
This is a point for us to kind of celebrate our relationship with the environment and say, hey, the creek is here.
There is such a demand for it and such a desire in the community for having something like this happen downtown that I think it will be incredibly successful when we actually make it happen.
I just don't think that it can miss.
Let's make it a place where, you know, where people want to come.